Next on NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman.
The Environmental Stewardship Awards program selects a new group of regional winners. Plus, a hunting lease on your property may be a good way to add to your bottom line. We'll explain. And we'll discuss the importance of a strong heifer development program on your operation.
And now, NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman with your host, Susie Ross.
Hello, I'm Susie Ross. Thanks for watching Cattleman to Cattleman. The return of U.S. beef to South Korea leads this week's cattle industry news. Exports to Korea have resumed after a 3-week suspension. Only boneless cuts from cattle under 30 months of age are eligible, but U.S. officials are working to expand exports to Korea to include bone-in cuts, as well as beef from older cattle. For more than 2 years, the 30-month limit has also applied to cattle and beef imports from Canada. USDA is looking to expand trade with Canada, and NCBA expects a final rule on this issue to be released very soon. The first draft of the rule was issued last spring. NCBA does not oppose it, but has flagged several areas of concern. March of 1999 was designated as Canada's effective feed ban date, but 4 of Canada's 10 BSE cases were born later. That's an issue NCBA has asked USDA to reconsider.
4 out of 10 of the cases have been post the date of their feed ban. So one of the issues that we have raised in the terms of the rule is that we believe that effective date of the feed ban needs to be reviewed and may need to be looked at a more recent date to current times relative to 1999.
NCBA has also emphasized the need for permanent identification of all cattle imported from Canada.
Permanent identification of cattle coming into the United States is very important because if we should have another occurrence of BSE with a Canadian cow, the key implication for us is the disruption of international trade.
Stokes says cattlemen are taking a responsible approach in trying to make specific improvements in the rule.
Our trading partners around the world look at how we trade with Canada and Mexico as a model for how they trade with us. So as we look at trading with Mexico on animals older than 30 months, on beef from animals older than 30 months, and even as we negotiate trading terms with Japan, Korea, and some of our key trading partners, we cannot ask for OIE compliance unless we are modeling OIE compliance in the trade agreements that we have.
NCBA has also requested an orderly market transition plan in conjunction with the rule to minimize disruption to the U.S. cattle market. We have more on that issue in this week's Market Watch.
Market Watch, brought to you by Pfizer Animal Health.
If trade is expanded, we can expect some increase in cattle imported from Canada, but experts say supplies are very tight north of the border, so don't expect the impact to be large.
We've seen the Canadian cattle herd decline over the past couple of years. The January 1 report showed that the herd was down about 3.5%. Their July mid-year inventory is coming out here later this month, and we expect to see another decline year on year on cattle numbers.
That mid-year report confirms a further decline. It shows cattle numbers dropping by 6% since 2005. The strong Canadian dollar is another factor that is expected to limit imports.
If you add into the equation what's happening with the exchange rate on the dollar, a few years ago we were back at 70-cent dollars, 65-cent dollars. We're sitting today at 95-cent dollars. And that's really going to be encouraging more cattle to come north.
NCBA has worked with Canadian officials for many years to eliminate trade barriers restricting cattle exports to Canada. We're now seeing strong results from those efforts, which can benefit cattlemen on both sides of the border.
And that's something we've been working on for a long time, and I think we're really glad to be able to be here and say that the blue tongue issue is behind us. Those testing restrictions have been removed for both feeder cattle as well as breeding cattle on blue tongue. We still got some work to do on anaplasm, but we're seeing good progress on that from the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. I think we're going to get anaplasmosis taken care of as well. For a lot of years, particularly from producers up in those northern tier states, they've been wanting to sell feeder cattle into Canada as well as breeding cattle, and that's been a cost for them. On the other side of the line, we've wanted to get those feeder cattle up there. We'd like to feed them up in Canada and either slaughter them ourselves or then they can go back to the States.
NCBA has conducted an economic analysis of the likely impact of the over 30 rule. For an in-depth look at this issue, visit our website at cattlemantocattleman.org. Each year, the Environmental Stewardship Award Program recognizes the outstanding stewardship practices and conservation achievements of U.S. cattle producers. At NCBA's summer conference in Denver, Colorado, this year's regional winners were honored. The farmers and ranchers hail from the states of Pennsylvania, Alabama, Missouri, Oregon, California, and Kansas. The ESAP program chair says this year's winners are an outstanding group.
So these regional and national winners are the pool that we will draw from throughout the country to help tell that story.
In the coming weeks on Cattleman to Cattleman, we'll highlight this year's regional ESAP winners and the practices that have made their operations so unique. The National ESAP Award winner will be announced at the Cattle Industry Annual Convention, which is taking place in Reno, Nevada this coming February. Farmers and ranchers across the country know the importance of finding supplemental income to help during tough times. Cattleman to Cattleman's Kevin Ochsner caught up with Texas A&M professor and Extension wildlife specialist Dale Rollins, who has tips on what cattlemen can do to find unique ways to turn a profit on their land.
I have the good pleasure of working with landowners to improve wildlife habitat across the western half of Texas. That may be, they may see that wildlife as something for their personal use, for their family's recreation, or they may see that as an economic asset to where they sell trespass rights to hunters. I would say, at least in West Texas, probably 70 to 80% of the range-based livestock producers, range-based ranchers in Texas, probably have some kind of hunting lease. That's probably double from what it was 15 or 20 years ago, and that just illustrates the economic demand for hunting-based recreation. And the first thing I ask them is, are you a people person? Because if you're not willing to work with people, and many ranchers are not, I mean, they didn't get in the ranching industry because they love to talk to people. A lot of times they're recluses, and they're not interested in dealing with the public. So if you're not interested in dealing with the public, a wildlife-based recreation enterprise is probably not for you. But if you're willing to work with the public and learn to handle people and the relative situations or toils that they can provide, the returns can be quite lucrative.
Rollins says it's important to approach a recreational hunting lease like a business.
I think the skill set that a landowner needs to at least try to develop as they contemplate a wildlife-based enterprise deals with three aspects of marketing that I've been told are: number one, know your product; number two, know your customer; and number three, close the deal.
And don't forget to look out for your best interests.
So craft you a good written hunting lease agreement, and there are resources available to you that'll help you with that. So think about that, knowing your product, knowing your customer, and closing the deal, and becoming a student of that, and you can get to where you want to be.
Dr. Rollins also recommends doing your homework when considering a recreational hunting lease to make sure you know the going rate for the type of services you're offering. A strong heifer development program is an important part of your operation. Ahead, we'll take a look at the criteria necessary to select proper replacement heifers. Plus, we'll head to Japan for some beef and baseball with legend Nolan Ryan. But first, here's a look at this week's market summary provided by CattleFax.
Fort Dodge Animal Health knows your animals are an important part of your way of life. That's why we're committed to providing you with a complete family of livestock vaccines and pharmaceuticals to protect your investments, save you time, and ensure quality and safety in your operation. Your herd and your horses are important to you. That's why they're important to us. Fort Dodge Animal Health. For more information on our entire family of livestock products, visit us online.
Patience may be a virtue, but when cattle are down with shipping fever, you don't have time to be patient. And that's why Baytril 100 was designed specifically for first-line treatment of bovine respiratory disease. For use by or on the order of a licensed veterinarian, extra label use in food-producing animals is prohibited. Ask your veterinarian for more information. When it's BRD, patience isn't an option. Choose Baytril 100 right the first time.
Purina's wind and rain minerals are research tested and field proven to provide balanced mineral nutrition essential for cattle health, growth, and reproduction. They're highly palatable so cattle consume what they need when they need it. And wind and rain minerals special formulation resists the elements so they won't blow out of the feeder and maintain their palatability even if they've been wet. Wind and rain cattle minerals from Purina Mills, building better cattle.
Welcome back to Cattleman to Cattleman. When developing heifers, it's important to understand the criteria necessary to get the job done right. Rod Newlick has tips on setting criteria from Camp Cooley in Texas.
Ken, we're standing here in front of just a beautiful set of heifers. And these young females are awfully important to this ranch, to the future of your production that we have here, because they're the future of our cow herd. And you know, when you think about it, they're the future of our cattle industry here for the next several years. So these young females, these replacement heifers, are really important. What do you look for as far as criterion when you go to select heifers in your program here?
Heifer selection, you know, of course, starts out at weaning time. You cull off your undesirables, unmerchandisables, and then for me, the next criteria, or the most important criteria, is structural soundness. And you sort these cattle to where they get their feet and legs will hold up, and then you know, work them ground up and make them functional. Enough performance, but maybe a little different in the registered seed stock business would be, you know, pounds aren't as important. Do more selective mating, individual mating on these cattle, where you can fix more problems than you can in a commercial deal where you're more of a mass mating situation and trying to do things at a lot larger stature anyway. And then we'll go into the yearling. Once we get these cattle a year old, start breeding 15 months, you'll come and the next biggest pressure on them is fertility. You know, these cattle come out and cycle when we synchronize and expect those heifers to breed up and get bred, and we're on 70-day season, and you know, that's the next biggest pressure on them is getting bred, and you've got your function bred into the cattle. I try to, you know, I'll cull a big cow before I'll cull a small cow. You know, for me, I'm wanting to moderate these cattle and just get more function in them and just make them more reproductively sound.
You bet. So you've got a lot of investment from the standpoint of your genetics program, and then what you've got in these females. So getting them bred not only that first time, but the second time around is critical. Is there some rules of thumb you use there to make sure that she stays in the herd?
For me, they're still a little girl till they're 4 years old. You know, you get them bred back when they're 3 to get that second calf in them, and by the time they get ready to have that calf, then they've reached, you know, they've reached 95% of their growth, and depending on nutrition and that they've been on, and they're ready to go on out with the girls and big girls and make the rest of the time. But you know, that getting them bred back that second time is something that's, you know, you really got to camp on, and it's like getting a 2-year-old bull ready again to go back out on the cows. You can't sit on your hands and just watch it go by. You put too much money in that first year getting her bred and getting that first calf out of her to sit back and just throw your high productive cows out the window. You know, that's what you'll be losing, is your cows that milk well and just can't grow and feed a calf and wean the biggest calf out there and still breed back. And then you know, there's a point that, you know, enough's enough, but still you got to be prepared to take care of those kind of cattle and get them bred back.
You bet. So attention to detail and making sure we've got them in the right body condition to help reassure this investment that we've got in this future of our cowhood. Very good points.
When we return, we'll head back to Camp Cooley to learn more about the steps needed to develop healthy heifers. We'll be right back.
People have different views of what they think's attractive, and while a Select Vac tag doesn't do anything for this dog, it certainly makes calves more attractive to buyers. In fact, Select Vac calves attract up to $29 more per head. No wonder millions of calves have already been enrolled. Ask your veterinarian or animal health supplier about Select Vac, the premier branded preconditioning program, and raise more attractive calves.
From fresh tomatoes to potatoes and chicken to beef, we're as picky about our quality ingredients as you are. Because that's what we're made of.
Welcome back. Let's head back to Rod Newlick at Camp Cooley Ranch in Texas, where he has more information about developing heifers.
So Ken, as a seed stock provider, you may look at some different criterion or may have some other things that you look at that maybe a commercial operation wouldn't. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Here, my opinion is, still structural soundness and feet and legs is still the number one, criteria. But in a seed stock deal, I think you can probably not look at maximizing performance. I'd rather moderate the frame and get as much performance in a small package, and just I'll make these cattle individually to bulls that will fix the performance. There's lots of ways to get bigger, but just keep the cattle functional where you're not really making all the cattle to a multi-sire situation.
So you can be much more selective. You can, can match them up better. I see. Well, Chance, in talking to Ken about these heifers that we've got here, we've established that we've got a really important investment here in the future of our cow herd and future of our cattle industry. And Ken indicated that it took a lot of attention to detail to make sure that we make the most of this investment. What are some of the guidelines or thumb rules that you'd give us for making sure that we get these heifers bred and productive?
There really are goals that you should follow, Rod, when you think about heifer development. And the main thing is making sure that those heifers are cycling or coming into heat by the time they're 12 to 13 months of age. A good rule of thumb to get them to that point is to set forth goals with regard to their gain from the time that you wean them until the breeding season starts. Generally, we like to see them at 65 to 70% of their mature body weight by the time the breeding season begins, which is usually about 15 months of age for those females. And what constitutes mature body weight for those cows? That would be when the cow turns 5 years old and she's in a body condition score of 5. What's her body weight? Generally, it only takes about 1.5 pounds a day type of gain to achieve that performance goal to get those heifers ready to breed the first time.
Now, a lot of that diet can be made up of a forage-based diet, is that correct?
Absolutely. I would definitely use a forage-based system to gain those heifers. It's the most economical way of doing it, number one, but when you're only talking about 1.5 pounds a day gain, it really makes sense to use a forage-based diet to get that done. Now, you may or may not need to supplement to achieve that type of gain goal. With vegetative, green, lush type pastures, you don't really need to supplement energy and or protein. But if you need them to gain that on a transitional forage type or medium quality forage type, which would be an 8 to 12% crude protein forage, 55% TDN, something like that, you need them to eat 3/4 to 1% of body weight of a protein/energy supplement. If they're on a dormant forage base, like dormant pasture during the winter or low quality forage base during a drought period, then they need to eat more like 1 to 1.5% of body weight of a protein energy type supplement.
So that keeps them coming along, gaining where we want them to be, and to be at the right body condition score when they calve then.
Absolutely. And it's important. You really shouldn't shoot from the hip with heifer development. You should have these goals and stick to them as you move through that process. Underfeeding females doesn't get them to that breeding age of 15 months of age. By the same token, if you overfeed females or overdo it by shooting from the hip, then you get fat heifers that may reduce your conception, and by the same token, it also reduces their future milk production. If you get them gaining much over or excessively over 2 pounds a day, then you can run into those types of problems.
Great. So a good attention to detail and a program is what's important here.
Absolutely.
Next week on Cattleman to Cattleman, we'll take a look at the importance of bunk management. We'll be right back.
Agriculture is a small portion of the population now, and if we're not working together, we're not going to get anywhere.
As our family, we cannot be in Washington, D.C. all the time, and I just couldn't live without NCBA representing.
They're looking out for our interests. They're there fighting for us every day.
If you got 1 cow or 2 cows or 100 cows, you need to be a member.
I'm a member of the NCBA because a long time ago, 35 years ago, I felt that I needed to know more of what my industry is doing. So I got started at the county level. If you're in the cattle industry, now's the time to join and let your voice be heard loud and clear.
You need NCBA working for you, and NCBA needs you. It's easy to join. Just call, get online, or talk with your state affiliate and sign up today.
Hi, I'm Mike Vance from Panhandle, Texas. You're watching Cattleman to Cattleman.
NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman, a television show by cattlemen for cattlemen.
Welcome back. Nolan Ryan is going to bat for beef. This summer, the baseball great traveled to Japan with the U.S. Meat Export Federation to promote beef in the country. Reporter Brian Baxter has more.
The month of July marked 30 years of U.S. Meat Export Federation work in Japan promoting U.S. beef and pork to Japanese consumers.
We're very excited about U.S. Meat Month in Japan. We're very excited about the prospects for U.S. meat in this market.
USMEF celebrated American Meat Month in Japan with a whirlwind of activities that included the appearance of Baseball Hall of Fame pitcher Nolan Ryan throwing the first pitch in front of 15,000 fans at a Japanese Major League game.
Felt very good about being the U.S. Beef Ambassador this week in America. Obviously, summertime, baseball season, and grilling season all tie in very well, and so we felt like that was a natural fit here in Japan, and so I was quite excited about it.
Also importantly, I think you attend an event like this evening here with the baseball game is the excitement of the Japanese people of having the American beef and American pork offered and the nutritional value and quality it brings.
Prior to the game, Ryan promoted U.S. meat with Japanese baseball fans. The former baseball star, who is now a Texas beef producer, also visited retail stores to see USMEF consumer promotions in action.
I think that MEF has done a great job of tying our product in with the beef community here in Japan and developing a partnership there where they work with the Japanese industry not only to bring the product in but to promote the product.
USMEF activities in Japan are funded by the USDA and producer checkoff dollars. I'm Brian Baxter reporting.
Both Nolan Ryan and the USMEF says it's important to educate foreign consumers about the quality and safety of U.S. beef. It's hard to believe we're already in the final stretch of summer. Here's a look at some summer fun in this week's Legacy Photos. Please keep sending those photos. To do so, head to cattlemantocattleman.org and don't forget to include the name and location of your farm or ranch. Next week, we'll have tips on bunk management. Plus, we'll feature one of this year's Regional Environmental Stewardship Award winners. And as always, your news and market headlines. Thanks for joining us on NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman. Be sure to tune in next week. A new episode airs every Tuesday night at 8:30 Eastern Time right here on RFD TV.